Gentlemen, welcome back to the healing bench. It's minus too many degrees down in the shop today. Me and my buddy Stanley here are just dimensioning up a nice pretty piece of pine. Cool detail in the grain there. So we have a project on the go. We are trying to turn that block of pine into one of these. It's a weaving shuttle. This is a 6-inch bobbin shuttle. So most of the shuttles in the house are for 4-inch bobbin. So the 6-inch bobbin has some advantages. Also, it's a little heavier, a little longer. Some of the weaving dynamics are better that way, depending on the type of yarn. And of course, the bigger bobbin will hold more at a time. So less time spent winding bobbins, more time spent throwing your shots. So that's good. So we're working on making one of these. I've never made one of these before. It's a kind of complex shape. So we got some kind of details here in case she needs to take that back inside. Ooh, that's pretty. Nice. And we're just doing our best here to turn a chunk of what used to be a piece of old barn loom that we rescued from the burn pile, basically, into some more usable weaving equipment. And lots left to do. Alright, here's what we're up to. Did a test piece here, hogging out a bunch of the center section with a drill, and then some rotor and some chisel work, and ended up with a pretty serviceable mortise there, except for where I took some bites out of it with the rotor by mistake. But that's why we practice. So here's a piece of maple that I have selected for the shuttle construction. And we're just working on digging some of this out here with the big bit. So kind of get into her like this. I can't show you this very well. I guess I'll try to this end maybe. See if we can get 2 punched in here. Makes a lot of heat in the bit too. I have my depth marked with some tape. Whew. Yeah. Makes more heat than I wish it did, but we'll kind of keep at her here. I would hog this out with the brace and bit, but they have a big aggressive snail, the screw tip on them, and I don't have a lot of extra depth in the stock to work with. I don't want to punch those out the bottom, so we'll try her like this. Here is, so here's the piece all hogged out with the drill. It's not the prettiest work, of course. It's not a CNC machine, but it didn't go out through the bottom yet. Calling it good. So I'm just using the whole workshop's in a state of flux right now. We're doing kind of a reorganizational. So that's kind of fun, but everything's a bit goofy at the moment. And I'm just using my lathe as sort of a plane stop to work against here. And we'll just start chiseling some of this junk out of here. This is going to be my life for the next half an hour. So I have some Handy Home or something brand Swedish kind of low-end chisels that I dug out of the garbage somewhere, and an antique carver's mallet that I got in a lot of cheap antique tools. Maple actually used to be part of a homemade weaving loom, so we're slowly using parts of it in different projects, and many of them are weaving related, so this old loom is going back into weaving. There we go. That's after, probably half an hour. Chisel and mallet. It's cleaned out pretty good. I don't want to get down to the final depth here on the bottom just yet. I'll do that nice and gentle with the chisel after I sharpen them again. But I think the next step is to try to set up my jigs on the rotor table. Let's take you over there. Alright, through the magic of smell-o-vision, you can see the idea here is not this. It's not set all the way up here yet, but the idea is stop blocks at each end, and the rotor bit here. I'm just going to go bzzzt, try to get these edges rotated in a little bit, or out, I guess, out to the outside. It's just a touch sort of out to that line or a little beyond, smoothly, and this will reach safely down at least halfway. And that will give me a nice point to get in with the chisel and just kiss that down a little bit more. So, got a little thin out here, but I think she'll hold. Hopefully, hopefully it won't fly apart. I'll just smooth out some of this transition here where I changed my mind and back the fence off to get a little more thickness in there. And as you can see, lots of drill bit marks there. I'm going to try to get in there with the chisel and just ease those down a little bit and take these teeth off the ends a little bit. But overall, pretty good success so far. Alright, the little space shuttle starting to take shape here. Got the inside of her hollowed out pretty good. There's a little evidence of drill marks, but it's going to be fine. As long as it's not rough and it doesn't snag anything, it'll be good, smooth and nice. I've traced the shape of the original. I'm going to cut the other side of the shape. And we'll see how that goes, I guess. But it's coming along. I still have to do some engineering on how to get the little pin in the middle here that holds the bobbin, but how to make that work. I'm not sure yet, but we'll figure it out. Super pleased with it so far. This maple's pretty. It's not bad. It gives it sort of the beginning of the shape. Gonna be some hand finish. It's okay. Ladies love a hand finish. So I was over here in woodworking corner trying to resaw a little piece of something for the, what's that thing I'm working on? Shuttles, weaving shuttle. And you see how this thing's not tracking good? That's unusual. It's an old used blade on a used saw, but that's really exceptionally bad tracking. I was going like this. So I thought we better have a look. And upon inspection, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that, but there's about an 1/8 of an inch holding that blade together. That band together, 1/8 of an inch of metal. I could probably snap that off if I really wanted to get it fling out in my face. So that's a good tip for you. If your tools are doing something funky, stop and check, because you don't want that to fly off in your face. That's bad juju. Alright, shuttle update, the whatevereth number. So it's taking shape here pretty good. I've got the little rod. So that's your bobbin of yarn. I believe it comes out the bottom and out. This little slot for distribution into the weavings, and just run that down there. And this is sprung slightly that way, so you just pull her over, lock her into that slot. So even without the retaining pin through that loop, you could potentially use this, but I nipped off a little chunk of bronze brazing rod. I'm just going to smush that in through here. And I may, you know, flatten one of those ends out a little just to tighten the fit. But that'll go through there just as a keeper. And then I had the weaving person try it out, and it actually is catching a little bit going through the yarn on the loom like this. So this goes back and forth, if you can imagine. In the loom, the yarn, the warp of the weaving goes in this direction, back to front on the loom. So you end up with, to make some of the different patterns, you end up having to, that splits open like this with your treadles, with your pedals, and then this has to scoot through in between. And what it was doing is fetching up here. Because basically I made this like 1/8 of an inch or a little bit too narrow top to bottom. So we're going to adapt and overcome using a couple of little stylish pieces of figured maple or feathered maple, or no, walnut, feathered walnut. I'm just going to scooch those on there with a little epoxy or something. And they'll look neat, and they'll also provide a ramp and a smooth way over for that yarn to pass through. And we'll see if that passes muster or not. Who knows? I'm just making this all up. Good luck, everybody. All right. There we have. I would say it's mechanically completed. I'm just working on smoothing that down a little bit there. I might actually angle those in just a touch, just to take extra space off of this pushing through the yarn. But it's going to look nice. This is the same feathered walnut that's in the weaving bench that I built for the big loom as well. There's a little scrap of that left over. So that's made out of feathered walnut and maple, so that's sort of fitting. You can see the bronze pin through there. And that's holding up pretty good. It's a nice operation there. No complaint. So really all that's left is a little bit of paring, chisel work, and a little bit of sanding work. Well, I think that's a conclusion. So we got these little bars on here. I've taken a lot of time smoothing all this, because this, yarn has to travel across this. And you can see it's still not 100%, but the factory ones are not either, like not 100% shrouded here. The factory ones are about that, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little more exposed upwards, but anyway, it doesn't matter too much. Can't wait to get some linseed oil on this thing. It's going to look gorgeous. But first, we have to take it into the house, do a little test run, make sure it works correctly, no more amendments needed, and then we'll oil her up. But this is what it looks like au naturals. And we'll see if it works or not. If it works, oil time. Everybody's favorite. This is just the Cambodian tire, whatever, boiled linseed oil. This is the one that's full of all the heavy metals and mercury and whatever, to make it dry better. Not like traditional linseed oil. Anyway, let's see what this looks like when we oil it up. Woo, doggy! That's a pretty bit of maple right there. hoping that this gives us some kind of protection and keeps the wood from being too dried out. Stuff like that. So let's get down here. Yeah, really just going to have to hammer the oil to it. There's a lot here and it's soaking. A lot of dry maple here. She's just drinking the oil up. Blam. It shows all the tool marks and blemishes and stuff on the inside there, but it's alright. We're not going for absolute perfection here. This did pass the test drive on the loom, so it's good enough to oil up. It's like a piece of jewelry almost. Alright. A little more. Don't be stingy with your love. There we go. Look at that. I love it. I love the linseed oil process. The inside's hideous. That's alright. We're all a little bit ugly on the inside. Now, get this thing hand finished. The ladies love a hand finish. Yes, my pretty. Yes. Nice. That's just beautiful. Just beautiful. Like I said to Miss April, I said, you know, either it'll work or it'll be a pretty piece of sculpture. We may luck out here and get both. That'd be kind of neat. The old boiled linseed oil, the BLO. Not to be confused with Bachman Turner Overdrive or the Electric Light Orchestra. BLO. You can just see, I don't know, I can see it, I don't know if you guys can see it, but just see that feathering and figuring in this walnut here on the top. It's just pretty, pretty, pretty. And you can see, full disclosure, all the nasty tool marks from figuring out how to rotor this and then making my own hand rotor plane out of a really crap chisel and a piece of 2x4, which resulted in a few of those dig marks, but there's actually very few drill points left, 3 or 4. That's okay. I accept you as you are. That's nice. That's nice. While I'm oiling, I should actually dig out that mallet that I have made for a friend. I'll oil that too. So Jeff, if you're out there, buddy, this is your antique, your modeled after an antique carver's mallet. And she has a little oil on her already, but drinks it right up. It's old oak, old piece of oak coffee table leg. And I scrounge out of the garbage, and there's actually a little mark here. You see a little tiny chase of thread there, left over from its former life as furniture. And I left that in there. Could have shaved that off, but I got a kick out of it being there as partly as a tribute to where it came from, right? The source material. So let's rip that on the old mid-century Mayhem wood lathe. Did a little burn there with some strip of flooring or something, just for color. This actually turned out really well. So this one's for you, buddy. This one's for you. This bud's for you. I think that's got all the pores filled up there now. Nice. Alright. Guten Tag.